Artificial intelligence, the key to unprecedented technological progress? Well, not quite. Today, we're discussing how AI may actually be driving the largest wave of job losses the tech industry has ever seen.
Whoa, that's a pretty bold statement. What's going on in the tech world?
Well, it's a bit of a shocker. In 2024 alone, we saw nearly 150,000 tech workers lose their jobs. That's not just a blip on the radar, it's a seismic shift in the industry. And here's the kicker: most of these layoffs aren't just about cutting costs, they're part of a larger strategy, a pivot towards AI.
Hmm, that's a lot to take in. So you're saying this isn't your run of the mill downsizing? There's something bigger at play here?
Exactly. It's like the tech world collectively decided that 2024 was the year to go all in on artificial intelligence. But before we dive into the AI angle, let's break down some of the biggest layoffs we saw last year. Intel really set the tone early in the year, didn't they?
Oh, I remember hearing about that. What exactly happened with Intel?
Well, they announced they were cutting over 15,000 jobs as part of a massive $10 billion cost cutting plan. That's more than 15% of their entire workforce. And get this, they're not just laying people off, they're restructuring their entire business to stop non essential work and reduce capital expenditures by over 20% throughout 2024.
Wow, that's a huge shakeup for such an established company. Were other tech giants making similar moves?
You bet. Tesla, the electric vehicle giant, made headlines with 2 rounds of job cuts. Elon Musk, in his typical dramatic fashion, told executives to be absolutely hardcore with the cuts and only keep people who passed the excellent, necessary, and trustworthy test.
Oh, that sounds pretty intense. How many people did Tesla end up letting go?
They cut about 10% of their global workforce. That's around 14,000 people. But Tesla wasn't alone. Dell laid off 6,000 employees as they continued to experience a decrease in user demand and a revenue slowdown. Alphabet, Google's parent company, cut positions across several teams in their cloud unit. Meta continued its year of efficiency with more layoffs, and even Microsoft trimmed its gaming division by 8%.
It's starting to sound like no one was safe. But you mentioned earlier that this was all tied to AI somehow. How does that fit in?
That's the fascinating part. These aren't just cost cutting measures, they're strategic realignments. Companies are betting big on AI, and that means shifting resources away from traditional roles and towards AI focused positions. It's not just that they're cutting jobs, they're reshaping their entire workforces around AI capabilities.
So it's more of a transformation than just downsizing. But what does that mean for the average tech worker?
Well, it's a double edged sword. On one hand, we're seeing massive job losses, particularly in middle management and entry level positions. AI systems can now handle many of the coordination and decision making tasks that were traditionally done by humans. But on the other hand, we're witnessing the birth of entirely new career paths and opportunities.
That makes sense, but it still sounds pretty scary for anyone working in tech right now. Do we have any idea of the long term impact this might have?
The McKinsey Global Institute has some projections on that. They estimate that by 2030, tasks accounting for up to 30% of the hours currently worked in the US could be automated. That could displace up to 12 million workers. It's a sobering number, but it's important to remember that new jobs will be created too.
I can see why companies are making these moves, but it still feels like a huge gamble. Are we sure AI is really ready to take on all these roles?
That's a great question. And to be honest, we don't know for sure. What we do know is that tech companies are going all in on this bet. Take Google, for example. They recently announced a major restructuring to accelerate their AI development. They're combining their Gemini and DeepMind teams and blending their assistant teams with their platforms and devices division. It's all about creating smarter AI and more efficient product development.
It sounds like they're really putting all their eggs in the AI basket. Are other industries following suit?
Absolutely. Even consulting firms like PwC are getting in on the action. They're creating a digital delivery unit focused on advancing AI, cloud, and data innovations. It's a clear sign that AI is reshaping industries far beyond just tech. But as we're talking about this, I can't help but think about the human cost of all these changes.
That's a really important point. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of new technology and forget about the very real impact it has on people's lives. Do we have any idea how these laid off workers are faring?
Unfortunately, we don't have clear data on that yet. But what we do know is that the tech industry is in a state of flux. Companies are racing to integrate AI into their products and services, and that's having a ripple effect across the entire job market. Some workers are undoubtedly struggling to find new positions, while others are quickly reskilling to take advantage of new opportunities in AI related fields.
So, what you're saying is that while some doors are closing, others are opening. But how can workers prepare for this AI driven future?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it? I think the key is adaptability and continuous learning. The skills that are valuable today might not be as in demand tomorrow. Workers need to stay on top of AI trends, be willing to learn new technologies, and perhaps most importantly, focus on developing skills that complement AI rather than compete with it.
What kind of skills are we talking about here?
Well, things like critical thinking, creativity, emotional intelligence, and complex problem solving. These are areas where humans still have a significant edge over AI. Also, skills related to AI development, implementation, and management are going to be increasingly valuable. Think data science, machine learning engineering, AI ethics, and even AI human interaction design.
That makes sense. But it still sounds like a pretty daunting task for someone who might be mid career and suddenly finding their job obsolete.
You're absolutely right. It is daunting. And I think it's important to acknowledge that this transition isn't going to be easy for everyone. There will be people who struggle to adapt, and we as a society need to think about how we're going to support those individuals. But at the same time, I think it's exciting to be living through such a transformative period in history.
I can see that. It's like we're witnessing the birth of a new industrial revolution. But let's bring this back to the layoffs we saw in 2024. Do you think we'll see more of the same in 2025?
It's hard to say for certain, but all signs point to yes. Many tech companies have positioned themselves to accelerate their AI development in 2025 and beyond. That likely means more restructuring and potentially more layoffs. But it also means more hiring in AI related fields. We might see a continuation of this trend where companies are shedding roles in some areas but expanding in others.
So it's not all doom and gloom then?
Not at all. In fact, I think we're on the cusp of some incredibly exciting developments. Yes, there will be challenges and disruptions, but there will also be amazing opportunities. Think about the potential for AI to solve some of our biggest global challenges: climate change, disease, poverty. The companies making these cuts are betting that by focusing on AI, they'll be better positioned to tackle these issues and create value in the long run.
That's a pretty optimistic view. Any final thoughts as we wrap up?
I think the key takeaway here is that the AI revolution isn't just about job losses. It's about transformation. It's forcing us to rethink what work looks like, what skills are valuable, and how we can best prepare for an AI driven future. Yes, there will be challenges, but there will also be incredible opportunities. The future may be uncertain, but it's also full of possibilities.
Well said. It's clear that the tech layoffs of 2024 were just the beginning of a much larger shift. AI is here to stay, and it's going to continue reshaping not just the tech industry, but the entire global workforce.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, the message is clear: stay adaptable, keep learning, and don't be afraid to embrace new technologies. The AI revolution is happening, whether we're ready for it or not. The question is, how will we choose to participate in it? Thanks for joining us on AI for Creatives, where we bring you the stories behind the headlines. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.